Hi everybody and welcome back to the Kendal Mountain YouTube channel. Today we're continuing our celebration of Pride Month with another Throwback Thursday, but this time with the amazing Nick Reed. So Nick Reed is actually an amazing climber, adventurer, expedition leader who set up an awesome company called Pride Expeditions. But rather than me explaining any more about Pride Expeditions, I'll let Nick do the rest in this next clip. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I'm Nick Reed. I've always been a climber and a mountaineer, and I've always loved being in the mountains. That's one thing that's, been a strong part of my personality. The other thing is I've always been gay. And that's a part of me that's been harder to come to terms with, to accept. So I'm lucky enough to live in a country where that doesn't matter, where it's not been a hindrance to my development, to my progress, to my career in the outdoors as well. I'm lucky enough, in the UK that, I can be who I am and also have a career in the outdoors. And I want to kind of get across to everyone that that's not the same for everyone around the world. So I guess it was 2015 when a friend came to me. He knew he was gay. He knew I was gay. He knew I was a mountaineer. I was actually had a career leading overseas expeditions, all around the world. And he said to me, "I want to go and climb Kilimanjaro." And I was like, "Yeah, we can go and climb Kilimanjaro, but you shouldn't have to hide who you are to climb Kilimanjaro." And probably people might not realize that in Tanzania it's effectively illegal to be gay. So this kind of made me think, hang on a minute, there's barriers here to people to go and climb mountains. So I thought, I want to go and climb, Kilimanjaro, and with people, and they can be who they are. And that was the moment, the catalyst for starting Pride Expeditions, which is my company. Since then, I've kind of built up a network around the world of trusted guides, and agents around the world who I kind of trust that will not be discriminatory to anyone I bring overseas, regardless of what the laws are in the country. I will trust these people to let me go and bring my clients. And they sign up to my ethos of not discriminating against anyone, regardless of their sexuality, whether they're LGBT+ or anything like that. And Anna, you're one of the people that works for me. So it's over to you.
I am indeed. So thank you very much for inviting me to your talk. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So like Nick mentioned, I'm one of the guides for the Pride Expedition. And yes, I have been to several countries that can be described as homophobic. But my special interest lies in the Middle East, just like Andy mentioned. I believe that that's the area where some of the most remote, some of the most stunning and still unexplored mountain ranges are. But unfortunately, that's also the area that are depicted in the news as having very anti-gay laws. And I also shall mention that I'm originally from Poland, so I'm well practiced in dealing with societies that can be described as homophobic.
So what challenges do you think people face, LGBT+ people face when they travel to these countries that you visit quite regularly? I know you've been to a lot of these countries quite often.
Yes, I have indeed. So no doubt LGBT+ members face several challenges traveling to those countries. But I think what I would like to stress is that there is a huge difference between being gay in places like Iran or Yemen or Saudi Arabia or anywhere in the Middle East, and actually being gay and traveling to those countries. Because as a traveler, as a climber, as just a tourist, you are much less likely to attract attention that with behavior that otherwise would have been quite controversial among local people. So to give you an example, I took Nick's group to Morocco just before pandemic. And it was September 2019. I remember at the time reading in the news about a local school that got fined because they displayed a colored flag just by the windows or so on. And it was the same month where 12 gay men and I trekked through the Atlas Mountains for several days wearing the bandana and flying the pride flag from the top of Mount Tubgal. And we were met with nothing but a very positive comments and positive attention.
So I guess my priority when I take people overseas is safety. So how safe do you think it is for LGBT plus travellers to visit these countries?
I believe that it is perfectly possible to organize fun, successful, and safe expedition into the areas that we are talking about. I do acknowledge that the Middle East does have anti-gay laws as such. So for example, Yemen or Iran, that happens to be my favorite country in the world, and as well as Saudi Arabia, where I'm heading to next Thursday, they claim that being gay can be punishable by death. But at the same time, I think it's important to understand that actually no penalties have been reported for the last decades. And so although those countries are seen as a homophobic, actually, I think it's important for any gay person to understand that nobody will actually go out and seek people out. So no local authorities will actually go and look of whether you're gay to fine you as such. So I believe that not only it is very safe. But my groups actually reported that they felt very, very protected by the local authorities as such.
So my priority when I lead overseas expeditions is like the safety of my clients, but also I don't ask them to hide who they are. What I do think about is how I can keep them safe as possible. So I ask people, if they're a couple, a same-sex couple, and we're in Tanzania, for instance, in Dar es Salaam is probably the most dangerous place for us to be. I ask them they don't share a double bed. And I generally, if we're staying in a hotel, I'll stay there only one night. But my guide in Tanzania, he's fully accepting that he's bringing, LGBT plus groups to Tanzania, and he will support me, and he suggests I move hotels every night in case we get any danger. What do you think about public displays of affection amongst same-sex couples?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I feel like quite a few of our clients, they often just ask what about the simple things like holding hands, would that be okay? And this is where I feel like the irony lies, because really the more conservative societies are, the wider the gender segregation will be. And as a consequence of that gender segregation, it will be very common to actually see a public display of affection among the same gender. So to go back to Morocco, the expedition that I led for the Pride expedition, I remember that having one married couple in my group and having to have the briefing and saying, please avoid perhaps maybe showing that you're married when we walk among bigger towns or so on. And then we got to Morocco, we went into the mountains, we met our local crew that consisted of 12 local men, such as porters, cooks, local guides, and so on. And within a couple of days, those local guides felt perfectly comfortable with just walking up to any of us, mostly my group, not so much myself, and they would hug, they would sometimes kiss, they would be perfectly fine with just placing a hand on someone's legs, because in their views, it is not an invitation for sex. It does not indicate the sexual orientation. It is just passing a message saying, hey, brother, I like you. It's great that you're here, as such. So overall, I've seen Egyptian soldiers walking down the street holding hands. I remember also sharing a meal with my Afghani colleagues. When on one occasion I was with my group in one room in a tiny, tiny mountain hut, and I remember that our Afghani colleagues were literally sitting on each other's laps, almost feeding each other hand to hand, and feeling perfectly fine about it. So display of public affection in the Middle East is very common.
So yeah, I guess I want to talk about the first ever Pride expedition that I did. So it was 2015 when I went to Nepal with a group of 15 gay men to trek through the Gokyo Valley, up to Gokyo over the Chola Pass. And I think the first night, one of the first nights where it was apparent that there was no hiding people's sexuality was probably in Dole, probably like 4,500 meters. So at altitude, I think people had a beer. And believe me, when you get 15 men in a small tea house with altitude and a beer, there is no disguising their sexuality. And after that trip, Lopsang Sherpa and Padiki Sherpa, the people who own the tea houses in the Gokyo Valley, they've become kind of like long-term friends. And every time I take a group out to the Gokyo Valley, you know, I will visit them and I will stay in their tea houses because they're so open, they're so welcoming, they don't care, you know, your sexuality or whether you're trans or, you know, the Nepali people are incredible in that. And Hari Dai, my head guide in Nepal, he would have been my best man at my wedding to my husband had it not been for COVID. So just hands up if you've been to Nepal, anyone? Yeah, so there's for mountaineers, I think Nepal is a very special place. And something I realized is you know, it's become a beacon for, you know, LGBT friendliness in what is really quite a conservative part of Asia. And you may have noticed where on your landing card, when you arrived, it has actually a male tick. It has a male, a female, and it has other, which is, you know, something we don't even have in Europe. So, you know, that is quite incredible and quite forward-thinking. But yes, it's still Nepal, so the same-sex marriage is not legal. And for actually Nepali people who are gay, you know, it is really quite a tough life. So, you know, although travelers are quite welcomed for actually Nepali people, you know, life is still really tough. So kind of looking at other countries that we visit with Pride Expeditions trips, we're lucky enough to, you know, North America, pretty similar to Europe, you know, same-sex marriage, legal, majority of the population are quite accepting of LGBT rights. South America, where there's some really good mountains, Aconcagua, you know, in Argentina, again, it's quite forward-thinking. You know, Argentina had same-sex marriage, quite early, so 2010, you know, even before some countries in Europe, so really forward-thinking. But then as we move across the kind of continents, somewhere we visit is Elbrus in Russia. So Russia's in the news a lot about, you know, LGBT plus oppression, and it's important to remember that, you know, when we go there, it's quite a homophobic country in general, according to what the population think. It's about 14% believe there should be rights for LGBT plus people in Russia, which is abysmal. And someone I would like to promote is someone called the Pink Summiteer, is Dashtan, who, if you look online at the Pink Summiteer, he's actually climbing all the 7 summits and raising the rainbow flag on all the 7 summits. During his trip on Elbrus, because he's so big on his socials, you know, and promoting the fact that he's a gay man from Kyrgyzstan climbing the 7 summits, when he was in Russia, he was actually arrested by the FSB, and although not charged with anything, he was interrogated for 48 hours before being released, just because he was a gay man climbing in Russia. Somewhere else we visit is Malaysia, so Kinabalu. Again, discriminatory laws in Malaysia. It's not legal to be gay. So again, it's quite impressive. But every country I visit, we have a network of guides and people that sign up to our ethos of not discriminating. And for me, it's about visibility, to show the fact that LGBT people are just normal people, to have role models. So Anna, what else can people do? Well, just normal people out here, normal mountaineers, normal climbers, normal travellers, what else can they do?
So I think from a perspective of outdoor professional, I don't know how many mountain leaders we have over here, but I think if you are leading a group of LGBT plus members, I think the most important thing would be not to ask our clients to hide their identity, their sexual orientation. I think it's important to just offer as much support as possible and just answer all the questions that people may have. Because just like as a mountain guide, you would ensure the physical safety on the mountain, I feel like you should also create a safe space within an expedition for people to be who they want to be.
Yeah. Something that I get asked quite a lot of, when I'm overseas, when you're doing a long trek or you're doing a big mountain, you'll have porters, you'll have guides, and invariably they get to the personal questions. They ask very presumptuous questions in the way they phrase them. For instance, they'll ask me if I have a wife. I can obviously say that I have a husband, but I'm not asking you to disclose any personal information. If you get asked that question, a simple answer may be, I'm lucky enough to live in a country where I can marry or love whoever I want. A simple statement like that will make that porter or that guide kind of think, hang on a minute, okay, maybe my questions are a bit leading or things like that. I think, and I understand that, yeah, I am a role model, so when I take groups out, being that demonstratory role model of a person that is gay, that's just a normal person and a mountaineer and a climber, I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, something that I would also add to it, I think that is also important to be a role model, just like Nick just said. So I think that that's something that everybody over here can do. I do think that venturing into those remote places in the world carry an element of social responsibility. And I think that everyone over here, just like us and then yourself, we owe a duty to our LGBT plus members, whether that's a family friend or our clients or just friends. As such, I think it is important to actually talk about this, open a dialogue, and show our presence. So I think Nick's work, Pride Expedition, are fun ways of exploring the mountains, but I also think that they carry this, or they serve as this really important form of activism, because we more talk about this, like I said, the more we show our presence, the more we contribute towards the change and development of the world.
So thanks everyone for listening to my mission to open up the world to LGBT climbers. Pride Expedition is open to all, so like anything, we need allies. We need people who will say, we don't care, we're just here to climb mountains, basically. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Nick and Anna for coming along and being such an amazing part of our 2021 mountain session. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and also check out the Kendal Mountain Player, where you can also see the full 2-hour-long mountain session with all our amazing visitors as well. Additional to that, you can also check out our other 400 different films and collections to choose from, where we're also adding brand new content every single week. Lastly, we've also just introduced our brand new $9.99 plan, which means you can get all of our content as well as all the festival content when it arrives in November as well. Make sure to check it out in the link in the description below.